Welcome to Tender Heart. Gypsy Rose Blanchard grew up knowing a world that was limited to the doctor's office, hospital rooms, and the pink house in Missouri where she lived with her mom, Claudinia Dee Blanchard. By the time she was 8 years old, Gypsy Blanchard was allegedly suffering from leukemia, muscular dystrophy, vision and hearing impairments, and seizures. Gypsy also used a wheelchair to get around and a feeding tube for nutrition and medicine. In her world of constant medications, surgeries, and treatments, Gypsy said, other than her stuffed animals, her mother and her caregiver Dee was her only friend. But on June 14, 2015, police found Dee stabbed to death in her house. Less than 48 hours later, Gypsy and her online boyfriend were arrested for her murder. In this video, I will tell you how this young woman ended up in prison for her mother's death. But before we continue this story, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you get updated every time we post new videos. With that said, let's dive right into it. For the first few years of her life, Gypsy was a normal toddler who was vibrant and full of energy. However, Dee, who had worked as a nurse's aide, soon began to say her daughter was ill. Her ex-husband Rod later told the reporters that Dee was saying Gypsy was sick, had problems sleeping, epilepsy, and it just progressed from there. Their marriage was short-lived, and after the separation, Dee became the full-time caregiver. After Hurricane Katrina ravaged their home in Slidell, Louisiana, a 14-year-old Gypsy and her mother moved to Springfield, Missouri, where they eventually settled into a house built by Habitat for Humanity. The home even had a wheelchair ramp for Gypsy to use. Gypsy said her mother didn't work, but the two were able to survive on Social Security, disability checks, and food stamps. Medicaid covered Gypsy's medical expenses. In between hospital stays, Gypsy and Dee frequently flew across the country to concerts, celebrity meet and greets, galas, and even to Disney World, with expenses paid by charitable organizations like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The mother and teenage daughter were local celebrities in their Missouri town and the subject of many local news profiles and articles. Gypsy gave speeches all around the country about her condition at various conferences, including Relay for Life events. The family also received free gifts and cash donations from Good Samaritans. But as she got older, Gypsy said she became curious about life outside the pink house that she shared with her mother. She started showing interest in boys and started asking her mother for dating advice. However, Dee didn't approve of the girl talk and even destroyed Gypsy's laptop and cell phone so the two teens couldn't communicate. As time went on, Dee began exerting more control over Gypsy. They would get into arguments that would last a couple of days. Sometimes Dee would not give her food, and eventually it started to be physical where she would hit Gypsy with a coat hanger. But Gypsy never fought back as she was afraid to. Gypsy even tried to run away once, but Dee found her a few hours later and severely punished her. But Gypsy continued to be defiant, creating an online dating profile behind her mother's back. She eventually connected with Nicholas Godjon from Big Bend, Wisconsin. The two fell in love and had a secret online relationship for 2.5 years. Gypsy and Godjon decided to meet in person for the first time in March 2015 at a movie theater in Springfield, Missouri. She was dressed as Cinderella and he as Prince Charming. What the pair hoped was for Dee to meet Godjon and approve of him, but she didn't. She ordered Gypsy to stay away from him, which led to a very long argument that lasted a couple of weeks. But at that point, Gypsy had enough. She didn't hate her mother, but she wanted her dead. So one day in June 2015, while Dee took her routine hospital appointment, Godjon traveled back to Missouri. He checked into a local motel where he waited for Gypsy to let him know that Dee was asleep. Godjon then went to Gypsy and Dee's house where Gypsy handed him gloves, duct tape, and a knife. While Gypsy hid in the bathroom, Godjon went into the bedroom where he stabbed Dee. Gypsy heard her mother scream once and then heard her call out her name about 3 or 4 times. Moments later, the couple allegedly had sex on Gypsy's bed and later took a taxi cab back to Godjon's motel. Gypsy said she was both excited and overwhelmed by the prospect of starting a new life. For several days after the incident, Gypsy and Godjon enjoyed life together. They were caught on surveillance cameras around Springfield and shopping at Walmart, seemingly without a care or worry on their minds. In the days after the killing, family friends Kim and David Blanchard were alarmed when they saw a vulgar status update post appear on Gypsy and Dee's joint Facebook page saying, "That bitch is dead." As soon as they read it, David and Kim Blanchard rushed to Dee's home, but no one answered the door, so they called the police. David Blanchard noticed the kitchen window was unlocked and decided to crawl into the house. He said everything looked fine, but that Gypsy's 3 wheelchairs were still at the home. The police found Dee Dee's body later that night, but Gypsy was nowhere to be found. Police traced the IP address of the vulgar Facebook post back to Gojohn's home in Wisconsin, and the pair were eventually arrested. Gypsy later admitted she wrote the post so that somebody would find her mother's body. In the following days, investigators found out that Gypsy was never sick. It was all a ruse created by her very manipulative mother to scam organizations that would be willing to help them. What do you think? Was Gypsy a victim here or a villain? Tell us your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video too. See ya!